Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, a queen sat by her window on a snowy winter's day. As she was sewing, she pricked her finger, and 3 drops of red blood fell onto the pure white snow. Looking at the beautiful contrast, she sighed and wished, "Oh, how I wish I had a daughter with skin as white as this snow, lips as red as this blood, and hair as black as the ebony wood of this window frame." Soon after, her wish came true. She gave birth to a beautiful baby girl with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. They named her Snow White. But tragically, the good queen passed away shortly after her daughter's birth. A year later, the king took a new wife. The new queen was stunningly beautiful, but her heart was filled with pride and vanity. She possessed a magic mirror, and every day she would stand before it and ask, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror, which could only speak the truth, would always reply, "You, my queen, are the fairest of them all." This answer pleased her, for she knew the mirror never lied. But as Snow White grew, so did her beauty. With each passing day, she became more and more lovely. When she was just 7 years old, her beauty was so radiant that it rivaled even the queen's. One day, when the queen asked her mirror the usual question, she received a shocking answer. The mirror replied, "You, my queen, are fair. It's true. But Snow White is 1,000 times fairer than you." The queen's heart turned green with envy and hatred. From that moment on, her jealousy grew like a poisonous weed. She could no longer stand the sight of Snow White. Finally, her rage boiled over. She summoned a huntsman and commanded him, "Take the child into the deep forest and kill her. And as proof that you have done my bidding, bring me back her heart." The huntsman was horrified, but dared not disobey the queen. He led Snow White deep into the woods. But when he drew his knife, he found he couldn't do it. The little princess was so innocent and beautiful. She looked up at him with tears in her eyes and begged for her life. The huntsman's heart was moved with pity. "Run, you poor child," he cried. "Run away and never come back." He decided to trick the wicked queen. He killed a young wild boar and brought its heart back to the palace. The cruel queen, believing it was Snow White's heart, was overjoyed and had it cooked and ate it, thinking she had finally gotten rid of her rival. Meanwhile, Snow White was all alone in the vast, dark forest. She was terrified. Trees seemed to reach out with gnarled branches, and the sounds of unseen animals echoed around her. She ran and ran over sharp stones and through thorny bushes until her feet were sore and her clothes were torn. Just as the sun began to set, she stumbled into a clearing and saw a tiny, peculiar cottage. Exhausted and desperate, she crept up to the little house and peeked inside. Everything in the cottage was small and neat. A little table was set with 7 tiny plates, 7 tiny spoons, 7 tiny knives and forks, and 7 tiny mugs. Against the wall stood 7 little beds, all neatly made with pristine white coverlets. Starving and exhausted, Snow White nibbled a bit of bread and took a tiny sip of wine from each setting, not wanting to take too much from any one person. Then she tried out the beds. One was too long, another too short, but the 7th one was just right. She lay down in it, said a little prayer, and fell fast asleep. Later that evening, the owners of the cottage returned. They were 7 dwarfs who spent their days mining for gold and jewels in the mountains. As they lit their 7 little candles, they immediately noticed that something was amiss. The first dwarf said, "Who has been sitting in my chair?" The second, "Who has been eating from my plate?" The third, "Who has been tasting my bread?" And so it went, until the 7th dwarf, looking at his bed, whispered, "Look, someone is sleeping in my bed." The other dwarfs gathered around, holding their candles high. They gasped in amazement when they saw the beautiful sleeping girl. Oh heavens, what a lovely child. They whispered to each other. They were so enchanted by her peaceful face that they decided not to wake her. The 7th dwarf, whose bed she was in, slept for an hour with each of his companions in turn, and so the night passed. The next morning, when Snow White woke up and saw the 7 dwarfs staring at her, she was startled. But they were very friendly and asked her name. "My name is Snow White," she replied. She then told them her sad story about her cruel stepmother, the huntsman, and her escape into the forest. The dwarfs felt very sorry for her, After talking amongst themselves, their leader said, "If you will keep our house in order, cook, make the beds, wash, sew, and knit for us, and keep everything neat and clean, then you can stay with us, and you shall want for nothing." Snow White gladly agreed. So she stayed with the dwarfs, and every morning they would go off to the mountains to work, and she would look after the house. Before they left each day, they would warn her, "Beware of your stepmother. She will soon find out you are here. Be careful and let no one in while we are away." Back at the palace, the queen, believing she was once again the most beautiful woman in the land, went to her magic mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" she asked. To her fury, the mirror replied, "You, my queen, are fair, it's true. But over the hills with the 7 dwarfs, Snow White is still 1,000 times fairer than you." The queen realized she had been tricked. Consumed by rage, she devised a new plan. She disguised herself as an old peddler woman, selling colorful laces and ribbons. She traveled across the 7 mountains to the dwarf's cottage. Snow White, peeking from the window, saw the old woman and thought there was no harm in letting her in to see her wares. The queen offered her a beautiful, tightly woven bodice lace. "Here, child," she said sweetly, "let me lace you up properly for once." Snow White, suspecting nothing, allowed the queen to lace her up. The wicked woman pulled the laces so tight that Snow White couldn't breathe and fell to the ground, seemingly lifeless. "Now I am the fairest at last." The queen cackled, and she hurried away. Luckily, the dwarfs returned home early that evening. They found poor Snow White lying on the floor. Seeing the tight laces, they quickly cut them, and Snow White gasped, taking a deep breath. She was alive. When they heard what had happened, they were very angry and warned her again. "That was your wicked stepmother. You must be more careful and not let anyone in, no matter what." When the queen returned home and consulted her mirror, it gave her the same infuriating answer. She was beside herself with rage. This time, she used her dark magic to create a poisoned comb. Disguising herself as a different old woman, she returned to the cottage. She knocked on the door, offering beautiful combs for sale. Snow White was tempted by a particularly lovely one. "Surely I can just look," she thought, and opened the door. "Let me just comb your hair for you, my pretty one," the disguised queen said, and as she drew the poisoned comb through Snow White's black hair, the poison took effect instantly. Snow White collapsed. But once again, the dwarfs came home just in time. They found the poisoned comb in her hair, removed it, and Snow White revived. When she told them what happened, they were stricter than ever. "You must not open the door to anyone," they insisted. The queen, returning to her mirror, heard the truth once more. She was almost driven mad by her failure. Now, she shrieked, "I will create something so devious that she will not escape." She went to a secret, hidden room in the palace, and using the blackest of magic, crafted a poisoned apple. It was beautiful, half rosy red and half pale white. The red side, the tempting side, was filled with a deadly poison that would cause anyone who took even a single bite to fall into a death-like sleep. She disguised herself for a 3rd time, this time as a poor farmer's wife. When she arrived at the cottage, she offered Snow White the apple. Snow White was hesitant, remembering the dwarf's warnings. To prove it was safe, the queen cleverly cut the apple in 2, giving the pale, harmless half to Snow White and taking a bite from the red, poisoned half herself, or so it appeared. In reality, she only bit the white half. Seeing the farmer's wife eat the apple without harm, Snow White's suspicion faded. She took the beautiful red half of the apple and took a small bite. Instantly, the poison took hold. She fell to the ground, and this time, she did not move. The queen looked at her with a triumphant, evil grin. "White as snow, red as blood, black as ebony wood. This time, the dwarfs won't be able to wake you," she gloated. She rushed back to the palace, and when she asked her mirror, it finally gave her the words she longed to hear. "You, my queen, are the fairest of them all." When the dwarfs returned that evening, they found Snow White lying on the floor, cold and still. They tried everything they could think of to revive her, but nothing worked. They unlaced her, washed her with water and wine, and searched for any sign of poison, but it was no use. She was gone. Their hearts were broken. They wept for 3 whole days. They couldn't bring themselves to bury her in the cold, dark ground because she still looked so beautiful, as if she were only sleeping. So, they made a coffin of pure, clear glass, so they could see her from all sides. They placed her inside, wrote her name in golden letters, and carried the coffin to the top of a mountain. They took turns standing guard, and even the animals of the forest came to mourn: an owl, a raven, and a dove. For a long, long time, Snow White lay in her glass coffin, unchanging, her beauty untouched by death. One day a prince was riding through the forest and came across the mountain where Snow White lay. He saw the glass coffin and the beautiful maiden inside. He was immediately captivated by her beauty. He went to the dwarfs and begged them to let him have the coffin, offering them anything they wanted. At first the dwarfs refused, but the prince's grief and love were so genuine that they finally took pity on him and agreed. The prince had his servants carry the glass coffin away. As they were walking, one of the servants stumbled over a tree root. The jolt caused the piece of poisoned apple, which had been lodged in Snow White's throat, to dislodge and fall out. Her eyes fluttered open. She sat up and looked around, confused. "Where am I?" she asked. The prince was overjoyed. He rushed to her side and explained everything that had happened. As he spoke, he fell completely in love with her. "I love you more than anything in the world," he declared. "Come with me to my father's castle and be my wife." Snow White, seeing his kindness and love, agreed. A magnificent wedding was planned, and to this grand celebration, all the kings and queens of the neighboring lands were invited, including Snow White's wicked stepmother. The queen, dressed in her finest clothes, first consulted her magic mirror one last time. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror replied, "You, my queen, are fair, it's true. But the young new queen is 1,000 times fairer than you." The wicked queen was stunned and horrified. She didn't know who this new queen was, but was consumed with a jealous curiosity that she couldn't resist. She decided to go to the wedding to see her rival. When she arrived and saw that the new queen was none other than Snow White, alive and more beautiful than ever, she was frozen with fear and rage. Her wickedness had finally caught up with her. As a punishment for her terrible deeds, iron shoes were heated in a fire until they were glowing red-hot. They were forced onto her feet, and she was made to dance in them until she fell down dead. With the wicked queen gone forever, a great shadow was lifted from the land. Snow White and the prince ruled their kingdom with kindness and justice. They never forgot the 7 dwarfs who had saved her life, and they were always honored guests at the castle. And so, Snow White and her prince lived happily ever after.